Everybody ask me how I know. I smiled at them and said she told me so. Everybody ask me how I know. I smiled at them and said she told me so. Everybody.
At this moment, COVID-19 is sweeping through the world and the global economy appears to be collapsing. This, without question, is one of those times of sorrow, a period when our lives are unpended and filled with uncertainty. But as more and more people adjust to life in quarantine, we are starting what's becoming a global social experience. Ideas that we only talked about in the years before are being pulled into action on a massive scale. Today in this video we are going to talk about the top 10 ways coronavirus will change your life forever. Let's start from the very last 10. Working from home. Before COVID-19, only 7% of American workers had the option to work from home. That doesn't mean that 7% were working from home. It means that 93% of Americans were told that it would never be an option. Today, working from home is a necessity. There are no hard statistics on how many people are working remotely around the world. But the company Cisco has said that in China, their video conferencing software has been seeing 22 times as much traffic as it did before the outbreak. The world is engaged in a global work from home experiment, and we are going to see firsthand just how sustainable it is. The ninth way in which the coronavirus pandemic will change our life will be the universal basic income. A few months ago, universal basic income seemed like a pipe dream. The idea of sending every person in a country a monthly check, even if they don't go to work, was starting to crop up on the odd campaign trail, but in most countries it didn't seem or sound like anything we'd see anytime soon. But for the next few months, it's going to be a reality. The United Kingdom has committed of paying 80% of its workers' salaries, while Denmark has offered to pay upward to 90%, and even the United States is planning on sending $1,200 check to almost every adult American. None of these plans are exactly the same as the universal basic income, but they are close. They are going to effectively be dry test runs on how these policies really affect our society. It's too early to say that the result is going to be. Finland tried universal basic income in 2011 and 2018 and concluded that it left people happy but jobless, which might be what we find in the rest of the world as well. But one way or another, these debates are going to be a lot less theoretical when the pandemic is over. The eighth way will be the automation. One of the sector COVID-19 has hit the hardest is manufacturing. Anyone working in a factory is an incredibly tough spot. Working remotely isn't an option when you work with your hands, but for some factories, neither is staying home. But for so-called light-off factories, they are operated entirely by robots. A disease isn't even a problem. Companies that use more automation are already doing better than those they rely on cramming human workers into a tightly packed factory. And companies are starting to notice. Kaja Robotics, for example, has said that they have been seen a 25% increase in inquiries in the past 30 days alone. We can expect a lot of manufacturing companies to turn to automation to survive a lot of other companies too. The seventh way will be online learning. Schools are shutting down in every country that seems outbreak of COVID-19 and they are pushing parents and teachers into a whole new era of education. For the next few months, online learning is going to be in the norm. No matter how teacher savvy your teacher is, they are going to have to learn how to make education digital. Based on early reactions, it's unlikely that we'll see widespread adoption of online education when this is over. Feedback from teachers so far has been almost universally negative. The major problem is that online learning compounds disadvantages. Children whose parents don't have time to push them on the education fall further behind, while those who can't afford internet access are almost completely excluded. Still, every teacher in the world is getting a crash course in 21st century learning. They are guaranteed to come back with ideas that will transform how our kids learn. At least for the kids that come back, a lot of parents are turning to homeschooling, and since homeschooled kids typically score higher on standardized tests than kids in public school, there's good chance that a lot of those parents will decide to stick with it. The sixth way will be the rise of big government. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to debate. But good or bad, that's a lot of reason to believe that it's true. Around the world, people have been embracing big government ever since COVID-19 began to spread. Socialist policies are being implemented all around the world, even in countries led by conservatives and libertarian leaders. The US government is planning on spending $1 trillion fighting COVID-19, while the United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that there is no ceiling to how much they'll spend. Big governments making a comeback, and in some places pretty extreme ways. The Israeli government has started using its people's cell phone location data to identify everyone who has come in contact with an infected patient. If you have been near them, you will get a text telling that you have to quarantine yourself immediately. The fifth way will be voting by mail. It's going to be a huge problem, and the country has not really had time to react. So far, the solution is awful. They are going to require voters to wear masks and disposal gloves, and they are going to check everyone's temperature and before allowing them to enter. It's going to be a disaster. We can count on the voter turnout being abysmal, and it's going to be a wake up call for the rest of the world. It's especially going to affect the United States, where primary and already underway and the federal election is scheduled in November. Americans are going to have to change their voting rule this year, and we can expect those changes to be permanent. Way fourth is the death of small businessmen. France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom are just a few countries that have shut down all bars and restaurants. And in countries that have not mandated it, few people are choosing to go out for drinks. For the next few months, these businessmen and their employees are going to strip of any revenue stream that doesn't come from the government. A lot of them are not going to be able to survive. JP Morgan predicted that the average small businessman will be only to survive 27 days of this before going bankrupt. That's going to change the face of our world, because while a lot of local pubs are not going to survive, the big companies are going to. The third wave will be the end of reliance on China. COVID-19 couldn't have come at a worse time for China. They were in the middle of a brutal trade war, and COVID-19 has made things a lot worse. Up until now, the world has relied on China as its manufacturing hub. They manufacture 20% of the world's goods, more than any other country on earth. And they have an even bigger role in healthcare. 90% of America's antibiotics come from China. But as China has gone under quarantine and has struggled to keep up its pace, it's become increasingly clear just how dangerous it is to rely on a single location to supply the world. The world is struggling with a shortage of ventilators and face masks, and it's just not feasible to rely on China to take care of it on their own, especially when they have been one of the hardest countries hit. Several countries are already starting to bring manufacturing back into their own bodies, while others are talking about spreading out their manufacturing to several different places. The second way in which the coronavirus will change our life will be free and universal health care. It was one of the lasting impacts of the last great global pandemic. People started to realize that the health of the poor affected everyone, and the first discussion that would lead to the universal healthcare began. There are only a handful of countries that don't have universal healthcare today, and one developed nation. But this could be the moment that pushes the rest of the world into free healthcare. 41% of Americans already say that they are more likely to support universal healthcare in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, and policies seems to be pushing that way too. US has already pledged to let people get tested for the coronavirus free of charge, and some politicians are pushing to make treatment free as well. And the last first way by which the coronavirus will change our life forever is a new political uprising. COVID-19 is hitting our health hard, but it's hitting our economy even hard. According to analysts at JP Morgan Chase, there is no longer doubt. We now think that the COVID-19 shocks will produce a global recession. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. That analysts predict that 400,000 Americans will become unemployed in the few next weeks alone, and before this is over, it would be even worse. Another analyst believes that before this over, 7.4 million people in the leisure and hospitality industry will be unemployed. It's the poor who are going to be hit in the hardest in all, while office workers are going to be able to work remotely from home. It's mostly be severe server and warehouses worker that suffers through this pandemic. It's going to be painful, but as Shidel said, Equality was only ever brought forth in sorrow. COVID 19 is going to put us to the test, but when the test is over, we are going to have a better understanding of the cracks in our societies. And if we are lucky, our world just might wind up a better place. So the video has come to an end, so please like this video and subscribe our YouTube channel if you have not subscribed, and turn on the bell notification to get the latest updates of our channel. We will be posting many top 10 videos, factual videos and many more. So please do subscribe our YouTube channel and leave a like behind and comment down your thoughts. Thank you.